Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rock and Roll Brunch podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Kiss's Gene Simmons. Maybe he has some comments that we agree with or disagree with. And also, we're going to be reviewing the newest record from the Dirty Nil, F Art. Join us. All right, boys. Well, hey, welcome. We're doing this thing, the Rock and Roll Brunch. My name is Josh Marcanti. With me, as always, are my two luscious, wonderful co-hosts, Mr. Dane. What's wrong? Dane
Luscious?
Erbach. Dane, how are you?
I don't know if I
That's
want
how you
to
get
be
that
luscious.
explicit. We're trying to get the explicit tag.
We
Tell
really
us
gotta
about
earn it.
Tell us about your hi-hat, Dane.
Slow it down.
Oh no!
Slow it
No.
Oh, no. Oh,
Stop,
no.
Stop being creepy.
and go slow.
Good morning, Dane. How are you?
I'm under caffeinated.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The other day, my wife Allie asked me. She's like, "Do you?" Or it might have been Chris, which is not great that I confused the two. But someone said, "Hey, do you want me to grab you coffee?" And I said, "If the question is, do you want coffee? The answer is yes. I don't care when it is. I don't care what it is. The answer is yes."
Yeah. I'm one of the great joys of fatherhood is that slowly but surely you start teaching your children to do things that are important, like how to flip records over when side A is over and stuff.
So working on that one.
Oh no, we're there. It's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Good for you.
My next phase is to get my oldest to make coffee for me.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
close. He's excited about it, so.
that's exciting.
Mhm.
Speaking of exciting things, Chris Marcanti, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm very tired.
I'm a podcast host.
We were watching Zack Snyder's 4-hour cut last night.
Oh.
So
How was that?
Just too much.
How's that? You didn't get? You didn't get through it.
We're not reviewing Zack Snyder's cut, but if we were, maybe a 4 out of 10.
Oh,
5 out of 10. I don't know.
Listen,
This
you're
is
going to get
terrible.
us in
But
trouble
by the
on
way-
the internet.
That is definitely true. But by the way, Dane, I want you to know that I startled my wife. I startled her by explaining how much coffee you drink on a daily basis.
Startled? That's not...
Yeah, because I was like, oh, I want more coffee, and she was like, I feel like you drink a lot of coffee as it is, and I was like, you don't know the half of it, and it's literally the half of it.
Yeah, I
Don't-
mean, I wouldn't say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6, 7 if it's a long day at home.
that's a lot.
I don't think that's that much.
7?
No,
cups?
7 cups?
That's
Well,
a lot of
7.
coffee.
We'll say 7 mugs because I think
That's
there's
a
like a
lot of-
couple of.
And are you
metric cups.
when you do a mug? Are you doing to the tippy top, or are you doing like, whatever it is?
If it's tippy top, I spill. I mean, I spill even if it's not tippy top, so I got to be careful there. So I try to be pretty.
Okay.
I try to give us as much as I can.
Reasonable
without-
amount.
Yeah, reasonable.
Room for cream.
Generous.
In the business, we call that room for cream.
I know, but there's no room for cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you put cream in it? Are
no,
you a cream?
he's black.
Sugar. I'm black. I'm black guy. I'm a black guy.
Okay, with that, I do feel like 7. I do feel like 7 is a lot. I usually like if it's a rough day, I'm doing 3. Yeah.
I do 3 before I go to school sometimes. Yeah.
First of all, that 7 is really 14 because you're having 2 cups of. It's like
They're
a 16-ounce
They're
cup.
big
I'm
cups
assuming.
of coffee.
No, they're not really that big. Like they're normal mug size.
Is it the mug? If it's the mug you're using right now,
It's not that. It's not my mega mug. It's my normal. It's a normal mug. I save my mega mug when I'm stuck on a podcast for like 45 minutes. Yeah.
There you go.
Because I don't want to go up and get another mug.
I'm worried about the use of the word stuck.
Speaking of brunch things, I realized earlier this week that on the Rock and Roll Brunch, there's been a disturbing lack of brunch. So I would really like to up that, and so with that I decided to bring some chewy granola bar for the brunch this morning. So I'm gonna go ahead and what's that? It's sugar. It's 25% less sugar though, Chris. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
never mind.
yeah.
Never mind.
There's only 3 grams of sugar in here, so I'm gonna bring the first brunch on the Rock and Roll Brunch. Here, let's get a nice.
Oh, this is not going to be good podcast sound.
No, I'm worried I'm going to have to edit all of this out.
People love listening to people eat on podcasts.
Yeah, I bet they do. You know what? If anything, we can bring to the podcasting game what all people in the podcasting game try to avoid, which I think is eating and drinking on a podcast.
I think what's gonna, I think what's really gonna make us stand apart from the general crowd is
Yeah, Gen Pop.
eating, right in the
Yeah.
microphone.
Right in the microphone.
So-
Especially you, by the way.
By the way, you take a bite of the granola and then you take a sip of the coffee.
Good.
It's a good combo. I know.
Oh gosh,
But
it's
listen,
delicious.
I really do miss going to restaurants as like the rock and roll brunch thing. I thought that was like, and I don't know if we ever plan on going back to that, but something would be missing at this point if we weren't waking up at like 4:45 in the morning on a Sunday. Like it would just change the vibe of the podcast.
It's really true. It's less rock and roll brunch and more rock and roll sleepless or something.
Oh, boy.
We should start.
What I'm gonna say is this: there's definitely a future where we get together at a dive breakfast place at 5 o'clock in the morning. So now we're just together and
God.
tired. But
Wait, we're gonna have to be strategic about where we go at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
all right, well, hold on.
Dane, what coffee are you drinking? I meant to add. I forgot.
That's right, because I decided I was going to start buying some actual coffee for the show. I'm drinking a brand called Just Coffee.
Oh.
I think they're based out of Minneapolis, I think. And I bought their Cabin Fever. Yeah. You know, I'm getting all of these coffee ads in my Facebook like feed now and Instagram feed, all these different coffee companies and stuff, but they're all pitching me like just different kinds of like flavored coffee, which I don't like at all. And so like it's just good coffee. It's good. It smells
just-
really good. It was
it's just
ground.
coffee.
Yeah.
It's
Just coffee.
Just coffee.
Just coffee.
Just coffee. Nothing
I
fancy.
think the emphasis is on like just as in like social justice. I think they're raising money for like, you see what I'm saying? There's a bit of a pun there, guys. You get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish you had started with that.
Jeez.
Because I was about to.
I
really
know.
start
Thank you
making
for-
fun of the
thank you
coffee.
for
Yeah, I'm
saving
glad
me.
you didn't. They seem like a really good company.
I mean, like, what I was
I'm
gonna.
already in trouble with drinking the black coffee thing. That's.
Yeah, God, Chris,
I mean, we're really earning our
Chris,
E.
Chris, don't bring it up again, okay?
Yeah, twice.
We're earning our explicit for sure.
What I don't know, how good I feel about like my social justice lack thereof while drinking coffee, and I'm proud of yours while drinking coffee, but
For some reason,
Yeah.
it's, when it comes to coffee, I've gone a bit more above and beyond than I have with other things to try to find like something that's like fair trade and
yeah, for
you
sure.
know, I don't know why that's been my thing more than maybe other things in my life, because I don't know, it's just the thing I've hung on to since college for sure.
For sure. Chris,
Really. Really.
Chris, what have you been listening to lately?
What have I been listening to lately?
Yeah, anything's been on your in your earbuds lately?
Great question. Great question.
Aside from what we're reviewing, I always say that.
Can I, you know what? If I'm, well, I'll be honest with you.
Be honest,
That-
buddy.
That safety EP is actually. I'm not even trying to. I knew that's why I said, "Oh
Yeah.
God," because I knew you were gonna be like, rah, 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 rah. But it's actually
Who put out
like-
Who put out
Oh my
safety?
god.
it's this little mom and pop label. You're gonna love it. You got to check them out.
Okay.
Jetsam Flotsam Records.
Oh, I've heard of those
Yeah.
guys. Yeah,
yeah,
little mom and pop.
Little mom and pop. Get up and go.
Little get up and go.
And dude, it's that actually that EP. Oh, that it rips, man. It actually really rips.
Nice.
It is.
I keep saying actually,
For once.
but was it like Sounds of the Coast or something? Maybe. There was a
Second
song
song?
that like, yeah, there was a song that I literally was like, it's like I was working and I was like, oh shit, that was like the chorus or
There
something.
goes that explicit
There's
tag.
our E.
I got it. Explicit. Anyway, that's what I've been
cool.
listening to.
Dane,
I'm
what about
happy-
you?
I'm happy that you've been listening to Safety. I got to be honest, like it's a record that like I heard. Obviously, I heard it a while back, and when I heard it, I was like, "Oh shit, I need to put this record out." So I definitely had the same experience as you, only a year ago, and with a different kind of thing. I've been listening all weekend to Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American.
I noticed that. I saw
I
that.
don't know. I don't know where this has come from. It's even though it's like their most popular record, it's like it's very low on my playlist of songs by them just because I feel like I know the songs so well that I don't come back to it very often.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally will listen to almost anything else in their discography and I just sort of skip over it. And then every once in a while I get reminded like, oh, yeah, I forgot about this one. And then I'll just like sing along to all the songs with the windows rolled down, kind of like I'm a teenage girl and just got a driver's license.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Bleed American is the only Jimmy Eat World vinyl that I have, so it does get like very regular rotation.
It's the only one. It's one of the only ones I don't have.
I got a nice one. By the way, sidebar: we are all on Apple Music. That's where we follow each other, and you might be able to follow us there if you find us somehow. Search by our full names. You might be able to see what we've been listening to lately, and that might also give you a hint as to what we're talking about on shows every week. So try to find us there. If not, sorry.
Also, if you're so interested that you want to know what we're going to talk about on shows prior to us talking about it on shows, then that would be definitely the place to go.
Absolutely. I'm listening to the latest.
cares.
Great. So today we're going to be I'm going to roll with it. That's good for me. It's new Foo Fighters. That's the answer to the question.
I told you. There's some stuff that's like a little bit different.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a left turn for those guys.
Yep. But speaking of Foo Fighters, they're a Foo Fighters. They are a rock and roll band, and according to Gene Simmons, rock and roll is dead. And it ain't coming back, folks. So, Consequence of Sound ran an article very recently, and that article is in front of me, and I am going to read you the title of it.
Wow.
Damn it! It was in front of me.
It's called Kiss. Gene Simmons explains why he keeps saying rock is dead.
There you go. Cool. I have my notes in front of me, not the article. So, basically, he believes that rock and roll is dead.
I think
go ahead.
The whole point of the article is that he doubled down on his statement.
Right. So he made some statement. He's been making that statement for a while. I think he started making it in 2014, and he feels more compelled than ever about that statement. And he made some points that I think are valid. There is no new Beatles, and there hasn't been for a long time. But does that mean that rock and roll is dead? I'm going to start one off today with Chris.
No, go with Dane. I'm
Okay.
so interested.
We're
in
gonna
what
go with
has to say.
Dane.
As a guy,
Dane, do you think that rock and roll is dead? Do you think it can be killed? Do you think that rock and roll hinges on whether or not bands are making money off of it? Which is the metric by which Gene Simmons lives.
more importantly, is this the first and only time that Gene Simmons has personally insulted you?
Oh, hold on.
What's your feelings on Gene Simmons, actually?
So let's
What is
start
your
with
feelings?
Gene. All right, let's start with Gene.
Gene Parmesan?
He's very good.
So we used to make the joke that every time like we showed my almost 2-year-old daughter something, she'd squeal like Gene, like Lucille.
Lucille.
Every single time Gene Parmesan was like, it's Eugene Parmesan. Listen, I don't like Kiss at all. No, and I almost take offense at the fact that they have billed themselves as for so long as like these like really intense, like this intense heavy metal, like hard rock band. Like they had attached the heavy metal name to themselves in the 70s before it was widely used, and they look pretty intense, and their music just is so bad. And like they've got like an album called Destroyer, and nothing is destroyed in that record. And
Correct.
Yeah. Listen, Gene Simmons just is, he's the epitome of rock gone wrong in my head. Like the marketing and the ego and the excessiveness and I can't help but entirely 100% agree with everything he says in this article, which is the true tragedy.
That was a great turn.
That was.
It's the true tragedy of this article is that he's totally spot on. And what I like about it is that Consequence of Sound like kind of pins him down, and like really, or they ask him at the right time because he just sort of goes off. And the whole article is basically like that one part of the article where he goes off and talks about how rock is dead and why. And yeah, he's just right on though. He's like lucid because
for once.
And not just stroking his own ego and not just trying to sell Kiss dolls or his most recent like reality show. It's like he really is.
Well, I mean, he was hawking his own guitar.
Okay,
His guitars. Yeah.
that's true. Fine, touche.
So he was hawking something.
But in
But
his
he was doing it lucidly.
in his rant, he's not
Sober
though.
for once.
It seemed like it. I mean,
Yeah.
and
He's
for
cleaned up.
the thing is like if his argument is rock is dead, but there's plenty of rock bands playing, because what I mean by rock is dead is that there won't be another popular radio rock band like Nirvana. Like, I get you. I mean, I don't know that he lists Nirvana.
He didn't. I don't think he actually talked about
I don't
Nirvana.
think so.
Which is like the one that came into my head is like, oh yeah, they were definitely the Beatles since the Beatles. Let's be honest. But there's, I feel like he's making the case that so many of us make in DIY or indie music, that like there's a lot of good music out there. The only thing he doesn't say is that that indie music probably should not become mainstream music, and that's one of how I feel. Like there's a reason why independent music stays where I should say where it is. I mean, you can make the argument that it should blow up and become super popular and stuff, but I feel like that's the thing. That's the next step that he just doesn't quite get to, because maybe he needed like, I don't know, like to go to the bathroom or something halfway through his rant.
Well, he's he's old. They don't have.
But his quote, like, it's not going to affect me. I make a living, but the new bands need love and attention. Don't go see Metallica and Taylor or Kiss. Go on the weekends to a place that's got live music.
Well, here's the to your point. This actually made me go on Billboard Top 100. Actually for currently and for the 2020, just to look at it and see where things stood. And I did. Arguably, Phoebe Bridgers, she was up there for rock and roll for 2020, current rock. But other than that, there's no rock and roll on the top 100. So if you want to look at any sort of metric now, so what I actually then did is I went and I looked at, okay, if we're strictly looking at rock and roll for 2020 and current, there are rock and roll bands that made big money in 2020, like that are popular and made big money. But if you're looking at worldwide or even in the US, they're not touching what everyone else is doing. What I don't like, Dane, is I don't like the idea that rock and roll lives and dies by the fact that it makes money. Now, I unfortunately I agree with you in saying that I agree with a lot of what he said, but I have a hard time with, yes, rock and roll is dead because it doesn't make money.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that saying that money is the determining factor of any successful thing, whether it's music or, pick any small business or something. I think a lot about writing and book publishing, but we can pick like candle making if we want to, like pick, I think that money is one determining factor. Yeah. But it can't be the only one. And I feel like, of course, Gene Simmons would be the guy though that defines success with money.
Here's an old man complaining that, some kid decided that he wanted free music and that killed rock and roll. Well, that applies to other genres as well. Mm-hmm. But But yeah, it certainly did have an effect on how, how much money he used to make in his at the height of selling dolls versus how much he's making now. Chris, I see you raising some eyebrows. Where are you at with this one?
A couple things. One, I don't know if I care about Gene Simmons to everybody else's point, but I'll counter argue that, like, one, he's a guy that quote unquote is concerned with money that told everybody not to come to his shows. So he said that in the article, like, don't come to a Kiss show, go to a local band. So he's saying, like, move the money from the upper echelon bands to the lower echelon bands. So, like, he's promoting not going to Kiss shows, which is, whatever. And then he also, like, says,
well, wait, what's your point about that? Like, yes, he did say that, and what do you pull from that?
That, like, it's not all about I think he's being extremely genuine in saying that, like, it's not about me anymore. It's about, other bands.
Yeah.
Trying to find other bands. But I also totally disagree that success has to equal money, because it does. It does, especially when it comes to music. It has to equal money, because in much the same way that, like, in order for jobs that are important to have good people do them, other than just for feeling good about doing it, the jobs have to pay well. I immediately, and this is not to be insulting, Dane, but, like, I immediately think of teachers. Like, teachers are the most underpaid.
I'm not going to insult you, Dane, but
But they're the most underpaid people.
Yeah,
for the
you get it.
Outsized impact they have on the world. Like, if you're comparing apples to apples,
right,
a CEO shouldn't make $10 million. A teacher should make an annual salary of $1 million based on the impact that they're giving on the world. They're just the most under. But if you had,
but is teaching dead?
But is teaching dead?
That's the question. You know what I mean? Is it dead? Do people still, despite, like, do young people today go, hey, I would love to be a teacher. This is my calling in life. I really feel that, I'm compelled to do this, but they don't make any money, so screw them. I mean, is that dead?
I think people are likely making the decision, right? You have a person, like, and I'm just thinking of qualities that teachers need to have: personability, down to earth, a way to connect, high levels of EQ. I bet you have a person that's
IQ,
EQ
that has a great, Josh. Great, Josh has 0.
Oh,
he
no!
Even know what the
I'm
term
learning
is.
something.
Emotional intelligence, the ability to.
I have the book right there. Do you want me to lend it to you?
I'll take the recommendation. I would love the recommendation.
I literally have Emotional Intelligence 2.0 up on the bookshelf. So, I mean, if you want me to mail it to you real quick, I can.
Cool.
But you have these people that have high levels of EQ,
like low
that
pass,
aren't
high
low
cut.
pass, high cut.
Yeah, you want to reduce
music
like
jokes.
you want to reduce like the 200 range.
That aren't going into teaching because they can make money elsewhere, and that's a disservice. Similarly, in music, because the rock and roll used to be a thing that you could make $1 million on, similar to, like, entrepreneurship now. Less people are going to do it full time because they can't support a family on it anymore.
Sure.
And that's a really important detail of, like, what it means to have music grow in a specific genre or period, is when you stop being able to make a living on it, people are going to do it less and just do it in their basements part-time. And so it's like, I think that's important. But I also did some research.
He's got paper.
Good Lord.
He's got things written on paper.
I do.
Why would you print it out?
I always print out our articles so I can.
So you want to kill some trees? What?
Here we
How
go.
old are you?
Here we go. Killing trees. The RIAA says that 83% of music revenue comes from streaming. How do you guys feel about that?
Not good.
I mean, that's what it is.
You're asking the label guy.
That's what it is. Yeah.
You're asking Hold on. You're asking the guy who runs a small mom and pop record label who's also a teacher. So, just saying.
All I wrote was subtly insult Dane for hours on it. 9% is from physical media, but 30% of all streams were in the R&B and hip hop genre. You feel like that seems about accurate?
I would have thought more.
Yeah, me too.
Last year,
I would have thought more.
2020.
Yeah.
And rock was 14% of that. Makes sense. The thing I find most interesting.
How does that compare to previous years, though?
Yeah, I was just about to say this. Gene Simmons originally made this statement about rock being dead in 2014, but hip hop, the current largest genre of music, didn't overtake rock in sales until 2017.
Wow.
So he declared rock was dead 3 years before it died.
What a prophet.
Interesting.
So the thing we haven't discussed yet, though, all of these stats are fascinating. Frankly,
Good job on those stats, Chris. Good job on those stats.
Listing numbers at 5:30 in the morning is really the
Sexy.
best. Yeah.
Just so.
There's that E again, right?
Yeah,
like more
yeah.
sexiness in this podcast with those stats. But
Ooh, girl.
and actually, I do think it's really interesting and it illustrates a good point. But it kind of also underscores the thing we haven't talked about, which is that headlines like this are just clickbait. And obviously, rock isn't dead. And rock's not dead. Like,
Whoopsies, fell for it.
Right? People are still playing rock music, and people are enjoying rock music, and rock music is gonna, like, when places open back up where people can enjoy music in a live setting again, lots of rock bands are going to be celebrated and enjoyed again. It just, to Gene's other point, it's just that they're never going to be as financially successful. But we've all read the article now, and Consequence of Sound made their 26 cents from Google Ads space or whatever. From,
I'm sorry.
But the point is like, as right as you're right for sure. But Josh is right too. Chris is right, and Josh is right.
Don't cross your arms at me.
This guy.
Don't cross your arms at me.
High levels of EQ.
Do not cross your arms at me. I don't know.
Like,
look at you. Dane says Chris is right. He's like,
my arms were crossed longer than that. Go back to the tape. Go back to the tape.
Roll back. But the point is like all these perspectives are obviously like right on. And actually, I think Gene Simmons would agree with both sides of this. I think the fact, Chris mentions that he kind of contradicted his own like ticket sales earlier or at the end of the article and stuff too. The point is though, is just that rock music is losing its place in contemporary culture, and regardless of how we define that. I might have just as a reference that's more like anecdotal. I might have like one or two kids each school year who walks into my classroom, sees a whole bunch of album covers from like decades of rock music hanging in this like around my classroom, and starts asking me about them.
That's awesome.
And it used to be a lot more, and now it's Now, if kids ask me about music, they want me to check out either this like really weird, like SoundCloud rapper that they really like, or they ask about things like, do you like Disturbed? Hey, my parents listen to like insert new metal band here. Do you like this band? And I'll have to be like, I mean.
Your parents' taste in music sucks.
Well, it's not like I don't say that. Like you can't say that.
Sure you can.
But at the same time,
show me the rules in the book that say you can't tell their parents.
It's clearly stated in the association handbook that we can't say
parents.
Your music sucks or your parents' music sucks. Now we can say there's a thing about grandparents we can say, but we don't need.
Yeah.
Are they grandfathered in?
No.
Anyway, the point I'm getting at before I started rambling is that clearly, like rock music doesn't have a place in kind of like contemporary pop culture. So the real question that I think I'm curious about, and I'm talking like a true podcaster here, even like pointing at the camera in kind of an assertive way.
Yeah. You're a real podcaster.
I
you
know,
really
right?
slid into that. Natural.
I know, how good am I? The real question that I have is like, by the time our kids are old enough to really appreciate rock music to the extent that we do, assuming they do and they don't start liking whatever awful trend is going to be coming out in music in the next 10 or 15 years, right? But by the time they start liking music, will rock music literally have, gone from
Well,
14%
yeah.
to like 6 or
Like
something.
to your exact point, like grunge is dead, disco is dead. Could rock music get to that point for our kids? And golly, that is sad.
Isn't it okay? Like, do you like jazz music was at the top of the charts for like 25 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily convinced that like Dizzy Gillespie was hitting the telegraph circles in 1935 going like jazz is dead. But at the same token, like it's okay that evolutions happen. Like Gene Simmons is still talking about Napster. Like that was the natural evolution of how people were going to consume music. Like it's okay that these things happen. But I do, if I'm going to end it, I want to end it with this, which is
Please
I
do.
watched a video of Alice Cooper responding to Gene Simmons' Gene Simmons' complaint that rock was dead. And after insulting Gene Simmons, which I don't know if I realized that there's like a battle of old timers there, but he said rock isn't dead, it's back with the Outlaws where it began.
Which is exactly what an old dude
That sounds
Old,
very
yeah.
old.
would
Old
have
timer
said.
would say.
Yeah.
Back with the outlaws,
But I mean,
the bad boys,
the
the no good grifters.
I don't like that quote because of that reason. Because it sounds like he's like, man, like
I like
70-year-old
the term outlaws. I like the outlaws.
70-year-old dude with long hair says, "Man, it's back with the outlaws." You know what I mean? But
And he was definitely wearing makeup in this.
Outlaws. The Outlaws sound like a hard rock cover band that you're gonna find it about with the Outlaws.
but at the same time, I hope to some extent that Alice Cooper is smart enough too to understand that, like, I'm sure he says outlaws, but also kind of might
All the
mean
time.
yes. But I think maybe he might mean not just the old guys that did things their way and won, right? I hope that he means that like it's the smaller indie DIY people that are going for it, even though the cards are stacked against them.
Speaking
and
of,
he said that, and I want to clarify, he did say that. He was like, let's not believe that there aren't kids in basements and garages somewhere trying to pound out like rock and roll, and that's what he meant by the Outlaws, I think.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
speaking of,
Outlaws.
no, I had a better one.
oh boy,
It was like indie rock and roll. That's gonna lead us right into our album.
that was better than Outlaws. But these guys are
I'm
Canadian,
sorry. Yeah,
so I'm
way
not
better.
sure they're Outlaws.
Yes, that's going to lead us right into a record review for this week. Tonight, this evening, this morning, we're going to be talking about the Dirty Nil's most recent record. I'm going to say it. Here we go. It's called F*** Art.
Jesus Christ! Now I got to edit that out.
Sorry. The Dirty Nil came out with one recently called F Art. Chris, I'm actually really curious about your take on this one, especially since I started with Dean today. So we're gonna go Chris, Josh, Dane. Chris.
Wow.
Chris.
You've been putting yourself in the middle a lot lately. And if lately can mean
Stuck
that
in the middle with you.
5 times. I don't.
Really?
Yeah. I
Already?
don't know.
This
I
is
don't
why
know. I don't know if this album really did anything for me.
Chris, I'm really concerned about some stuff, but go ahead.
There are some huge songs in here, right? Like Done with Drugs. Like that is a huge song, and good songs from like a lyrical perspective and like an emotional EQ perspective of like, saying something about something rather than like just, being a
And it was
album.
EQ'd so well.
Yeah. I think this dude's voice is really awesome. I like the moments that he pushes it really blew me away, especially like
Right in the beginning.
Doom Boy or whatever. Yeah, right out of the gate. But they're like at no point in any of the songs, probably somewhere in there, I guess I can't say anything, but at no point was I like, oh, there's a cool part. There's something that's trying to be the next iteration of of like, I could call it pop punk music, but like indie rock music or whatever. Where like records we've talked about before, I'm like, oh, this is different. This is trying to take another step towards something else, even if it's only 10% of the time. During this whole thing, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good in that like it's exactly what you'd expect once the record starts to all the way to the end. You go like, oh, this is going to be the same song over and over and over and over again, and it was, and there were good hooks and big parts and stuff like that. But it's definitely not going to stay with me. I don't think that there's going to be a long-term listening of the Dirty Nil.
Chris, I have a legit concern. Do you want to hear about it?
Do I have the option of saying no?
No, because I'm the podcast host, and you have to listen to every damn word of. No, I legitimately, I think our tastes in music are diverting more these days.
I said that last time.
More these days than normal. I mean, there's a Venn diagram, mostly covered, but because for me, I loved this record. Like, loved this record. Now, what I will say, I actually 100% agree with everything you said, with the exception of that it won't stick with me. I mean, to the point where you're like, maybe they're not doing anything that's like completely different. Yes and no. Yes, and as in like maybe even just like a refinement or like almost like a mastery, in my opinion, of the elements that they're presenting. Which is, I at times I heard like a little bit of Alkaline Trio. At times I heard like the best pop rock that could be on like any radio, like Elvis 77, Done with Drugs. The one that didn't really hit for me was Ride or Die. That one was like a little like it was a little like arena rocky for me, but that's if that's the low point in the record for me. I like front to back. I like genuinely loved this record, and I don't like. What's weird for me is like I don't find myself being like I'm a fan of this band now. Especially like at 34, which sucks to say. I find myself like, oh, I like this record, or I like this guy. But like I am a fan of these guys. Like I went and I was like watching their videos and like looking at their social media presence and like the things that they're doing. They've got a Patreon club called the Nillionaires Club where they'll do like record breakdowns and like how he wrote riffs. He's got his own podcast where he interviewed Laura Jane Grace not that long ago. There you go. I am like a legitimate fan of these guys. This record hit on every note for me. Legitimately loved it. It's one of the best things I've heard in recent memory. Dane.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm definitely leaning more towards Josh than Chris on this one, which is rare. I usually don't lean towards. I try to stay away from Josh's opinion and
don't we all
embrace Chris's.
How dare you? That's not a good way to live.
No. That's how it is, man.
Don't be there.
So I've heard of the Dirty Nil a lot in the past few years, and I just, it's a band that slid between the cracks for me, and I just didn't check out. And I think in my head I had some conception of the kind of band they were, and I was really wrong. So when Doom Boy started, because it's kind of a heavy, almost metal-y kind of start to the record. They have
like a metal-y breakdown kind of thing that happens too. Yeah.
And I was like, what's this? And then when his voice came in, I was like, oh no, is this band just like a much heavier band than I thought they were? But then when his voice comes in, I'm like, oh, well, this is a crunchy combination of all sorts of delicious things.
I heard little bits of kind of everything, and they take it and they repackage it in a way that's like, I think hard to define them, but at the same they've defined themselves in that taking a little bit of everything. But
and to Chris's point, I don't really know that they're kind of crunchy, loud music with kind of his voice is really like melodic and controlled, but also a little rough around the edges.
It's cool.
I don't know how to describe it because it's not like husky You know, it's not like hot water music-y.
Right.
It's not like but it's still really melodic and catchy. And I don't know, there's something that's not unique about them, and yet kind of unique at the same time.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I also saw a lot of humor in their lyrics. If you just sort of like sit back and listen to them, like
Yes.
their lyrics aren't their lyrics are, they don't seem deep on the surface because there's a little bit of humor in them, but there's something kind of funny about how there's something kind of deep about them despite the humor. I don't know, like
Yes.
To the Guy Who Stole My Bike is the song
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
for
I've
sure.
been clinging to. It's got these sort of like long mournful chords and like I hope you ride your bike straight to hell or whatever, or ride the bike straight to hell. I mean, it's really funny.
It's like,
Yeah.
if they're from Canada, so and by the way, Chris, to you should love, they're a 3-piece, so they
Yeah,
get
I
all
know.
that sound out of it being a 3-piece, and
Yeah.
I feel, Dane, to your point, I feel like their lyrics are like distinctly Canadian, where it's kind of just like they're just talking about like stuff, like they're not trying to be incredibly high-minded, and I like that. I love that they're not up their own ass about anything. And it was
so
like,
to that point, and this is kind of like the last thing I'll land on, because I'm happy you mentioned "Done with Drugs." I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about that song or not, and because it's definitely the song that every time it kind of came back around to that one, I was like, oh yeah, this is that song again, and I would kind of stop and listen to the lyrics, because I mean it's like a good song that's got just a good breakdown, heavy kind of swinging chords and stuff in the chorus and all of that. But the lyrics, like I'm done with drugs, I ain't doing it for no one. Like I'm just giving them up. It's sort of like on the one hand, speaking of Gene Simmons, the whole like
oh, we were done.
glorification of like excess in rock music is old. It's like a trope that's stupid, like Motley
100%.
Crue style stuff. But even like when you hear it in like in smaller bands and stuff too, it's sort of like come on, man, I'm 37. You're this doesn't work for me in the same way that it, even if I did drink, like it would have worked for me in my 20s or even my teens. Like it's like kind of a trope that I wish would give up. But this one feels very like oh, and on the flip side, like songs that are really aggressively about not drinking or not doing drugs or something like that, they're obnoxious in a whole nother way. This one somehow finds the middle ground in a super interesting way. It's like not trying to preach. It's making a big deal out of not making a big deal. I don't know. I just thought it was a thought-provoking song for me. And the lyrics maybe aren't all that, complex, but I still stopped and thought about like, what does this song mean to, a person who had fun doing drugs and never got in big trouble with them and never really, but now they're just like, man, got to do other things now.
Yeah.
I got other things
It
to
is
do.
That's just
distinctly Canadian. It's a
That's
distinctly
it's like-
Canadian
it's like even
way of
like
handling drugs.
Elvis 77, where they're like the hook is, why didn't you call your mom?
Yep. That's another
It's
one.
so good. It's so, to me, it's like, it's just like, call your mom. It's so good. So okay, cool. Chris, you're wrong, and I'll
This
fight
time.
you about it.
Yeah.
This time,
No,
I'm wrong.
actually, you weren't very down about it. I know you. I know you're-
I genuinely really liked the record. It's not a matter of not liking it. It's a
Right.
matter of going like, and which is always a follow-up question, like how often will this be in rotation?
This is what I was
And
going to ask. Yeah.
I just can't say it's going to be often in rotation because I know where to get this thing in other places, if that makes sense.
If where would you get this from? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I just feel like but that's the thing, like a number of places. There's definitely a tweak to the story, but like if I can look any place for a pop punk band and get bigger hooks and like bigger harmonies and stuff like that, I can get the sugar high from somewhere else.
All right, Gene Simmons. For me, yeah, this is gonna be on like heavy rotation. This is like, I can't. I don't think I can get enough of this one. This is like my new Hamilton. Dane,
My new Hamilton.
That's the pull quote.
high praise. Dane, what about you?
I keep coming back to like, do I agree with Chris? I really want to. I really don't want to agree with Josh. And I keep coming back to this. Chris says you can get the sugar high somewhere else, but I kind of feel like there's something new here for me that makes it feel like, and it's hard to qualify, but it makes it feel like something I haven't gotten elsewhere. So I probably will be listening to this, but probably bigger than that, these songs have been circling my brain for like all weekend. And like I've been putting on Jimmy Eat World, but like when I turn it off, these are the songs that just sort of are like there, and they were circling my brain all night and making it hard to sleep. So
awesome.
Probably a little bit of replay, and it's filling in the gaps between other record releases.
It's awesome. Well, that is going to do it for us today. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Chris Marcanti, where can people find out what you're up to, what's going on in your life?
At the Throwback Chicago.
What's going
the
on?
Most important thing.
What's going on with the throwbacks these days?
We're back. We're back, baby. Finally, after such a long dry spell. Dry spell?
Government.
That's that explicit.
Government-induced dry spell.
Government-induced. That's what you want. The government stepping in. Yeah, we're back. We're gonna start doing live streams again and getting out for some shows and just excited to play music out in the world again.
Cool. Dane, what about you? Where can people find what you're up to? What's going on in your life?
Easiest place is probably Jetsam-Flotsam at .bandcamp.com. Just listen to the new Safety record. There's gonna be There's gonna be some other stuff that comes out in the next couple months that are, I don't know, that feel like big deals to me.
Ooh, stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. A little bit of a hint. For me, it's here. It's Rock and Roll Brunch, as well as the throwbacks. But yeah, you can shoot us an email at rockandrollbrunch@gmail.com. Be on the lookout for all things Rock and Roll Brunch. With that, boys, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, John.
Yep. And check, please.